The sky above the alien city was dark with smoke. Red flames rose from broken towers, and the air was filled with the sound of alarms, screams, and falling metal. It was not Earth. It was a world far away, a world where humans were rare and often unwelcome. Among the chaos stood Daniel, a human engineer who had been working with alien machines for trade. He had come here as a visitor, but now he was trapped in a city that looked more like a battlefield. As he ran through the broken streets, he heard a sound that made him stop. It was not the roar of fire or the crack of collapsing buildings. It was the small, weak gasp of a child. Daniel turned his head and saw her. An alien girl, no older than 10 by human eyes, lay on the ground near a collapsed wall. Her skin shimmered faintly blue under the firelight, and her large, dark eyes were filled with fear. She clawed at her chest, unable to breathe. Daniel rushed to her side. "Hey, stay with me," he shouted, even though he was not sure if she understood his words. The girl's chest moved up and down quickly. She coughed, but no air seemed to reach her lungs. Daniel looked closer. Her breathing system was damaged, perhaps from smoke, perhaps from an old sickness. If nothing was done, she would die within minutes. Daniel's mind raced. He had no medical training, but he was an engineer. He knew how air flowed, how pressure worked, how machines carried life. He searched his bag and found scraps of metal, wires, and a small oxygen tank he had been using for repairs. His hands trembled, but his mind grew sharp. He began to work. Come on, he whispered. The alien girl's eyes fluttered as she tried to stay awake. Daniel bent pieces of metal into a small frame, tied wires tightly, and fixed a tiny filter from his toolkit. Sweat rolled down his forehead as he worked against time. He created a rough device, something that looked ugly but strong. He pressed the mask of the device to the girl's mouth and connected it to the tank. For a moment, nothing happened. The girl's body was still. Daniel's heart dropped, then a breath. A deep, shaky breath. Her chest rose, then fell again. Air entered her lungs. The girl's eyes widened and tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked at him with wonder and relief. "You're safe now," Daniel said softly, though he knew she might not understand the words. She lifted a trembling hand and touched the mask, then pointed to her chest. She whispered something in her language, a word Daniel could not understand but felt in his heart. Others had gathered now. Dozens of aliens stood in a circle, watching the scene. Their tall forms and shining eyes were silent, their faces unreadable. Daniel expected to see gratitude, or at least relief, but instead he saw something else. Fear and whispers. One alien muttered in a low voice. He touched the younger. "By law, she is no longer her own," another answered. "The elder must claim him." "It is written." Daniel looked up, confused. What are you talking about?" The girl clung to his arm, still weak but breathing better. She whispered again, this time more clearly. "Second breath. You are my second breath." Daniel smiled at her words, but the crowd's silence grew heavier. Then a shadow fell over them. A tall woman stepped forward. She looked like the girl, but older, stronger, her eyes sharper, her voice cold. She pointed at Daniel. "You saved my younger sister," she said in broken human language. "By our law, she belongs to me." "And so do you." Daniel froze. His mind could not process the words. "What? I don't belong to anyone." The elder sister's face remained calm, but her voice carried power. "You gave her life. That life is mine. You are mine." The soldiers around her lifted their weapons, aiming at Daniel. The crowd did not argue. No one moved to help him. Daniel felt anger rising in his chest. He had only wanted to save a child. Instead, his act of kindness had turned into chains. The girl cried out, pulling at her sister's arm. "No, he is not yours," she shouted in her own tongue. But the soldiers ignored her. The elder sister stepped closer, her shadow covering Daniel and the child. "By alien law," she said firmly, "you are property now." Daniel clenched his fists. He looked down at the girl, then up at her cold sister, and then at the silent crowd. He realized something chilling. Saving her life may have just cost him his own freedom. The flames around them burned higher, and the city groaned under its wounds. Yet in that moment, Daniel knew. This rescue was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. The fire in the city slowly died, but the fire in Daniel's heart only grew stronger. He had saved a child, yet instead of thanks, he was surrounded by soldiers. Their tall figures stood like shadows in the smoke, weapons pointed at him. The younger sister clung to his arm, her new lungs working with every breath he had given her. The elder sister raised her hand. At once the soldiers lowered their weapons but did not step away. Their eyes stayed on the human, sharp and watchful like hunters ready to strike. Daniel's voice cut through the heavy silence. "Listen to me. I don't belong to anyone. I saved her because it was the right thing to do. That's all." The elder sister's cold eyes met his. "You do not understand. On our world, saving a younger life is not a gift. It is a bond, and all bonds of the younger belong to the elder. It is the law." Daniel blinked, confused. "What kind of law is that?" "That's not justice. That's slavery." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, but most lowered their eyes. No one dared challenge the elder sister. She was not just a sibling. She was part of a powerful house, a family that ruled much of this city. The younger sister cried out, "No, he gave me breath. He is mine to thank, not yours to own." Her words shook, but her spirit was strong. She pulled at Daniel's arm as if trying to shield him from her own blood. But the elder's face remained like stone. "Silence," the elder commanded. "Your breath is mine. Your life is mine, and what belongs to you belongs to me." She turned to Daniel. "Human, you are mine!" Daniel stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "I don't care about your law. I don't care about your rules. I am not your property. I am free." The crowd gasped at his defiance. No one spoke to an elder like that, not here. Not ever. The elder sister studied him with a mix of curiosity and control. She was not used to resistance. Finally, she said, "You will come to my fortress. There, you will learn your place. If you resist, you will be broken." Daniel clenched his fists. Every instinct told him to fight, to run, to escape. But when he looked down, he saw the younger sister's fearful eyes. If he resisted now, the soldiers might kill him or worse, punish her. He took a deep breath. For now, he had to stay calm. The soldiers stepped forward, chains of glowing metal in their hands. Daniel did not move as they clasped them around his wrists. The chains were heavy, not just in weight but in meaning. He was no longer seen as a man. He was a possession. The younger sister screamed and tried to run after him, but one of the soldiers blocked her path. She pushed, she fought, but she was too small. "Let him go," she cried. "He is not a thing." Daniel turned his head back as they dragged him away. His voice was low but steady. "Stay strong," he said to her. "This is not the end." The elder sister led the way, her cloak flowing like a shadow in the firelight. The soldiers followed, pulling Daniel toward the great fortress that loomed in the distance. The crowd slowly dispersed, their whispers lingering in the air. Some pitied the human, others feared him, but none dared to stand for him. As they walked, Daniel tried to understand the strange law. On Earth, life was a gift, a chance to live free. But here life was a chain binding the younger to the elder. He wondered how many lives had been stolen, how many voices silenced, all because of this law. The fortress gates opened with a thunderous sound. Inside, tall walls rose high, lined with guards and machines. The air smelled of oil and power. It was a place of control, not kindness. The elder sister turned to him once more. "You will serve here. You will obey me. If you refuse, the law allows punishment, even death. Do you understand?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "I understand one thing. A law like this does not make you strong. It makes you a coward." Her eyes narrowed, but she did not strike him. Instead, she smiled, a cold smile that carried danger. "You are bold, human. I will enjoy breaking you." The soldiers shoved Daniel forward, deeper into the fortress. Behind him, the gates closed with a heavy slam, sealing his fate. But in the distance, unseen by the soldiers, the younger sister stood hidden among the shadows of the city. Her small hands were clenched, her eyes burning with determination. She whispered to herself, "I will not let them take him. I will find a way. I will free him." And so the law was revealed, a law that chained love, kindness, and even life itself. But Daniel knew in his heart that no law, no matter how old, could chain the human spirit forever. What he did not know yet was that his defiance had been noticed, not only by the elder, not only by the younger, but by others hidden in the dark corners of the city, and soon his fight against one sister would become a fight against an entire system. The fortress walls stood like mountains, high and cold, shutting out the world beyond. Inside, the air was heavy with the weight of command and obedience. Daniel walked through the stone corridors, his wrists still bound by glowing chains. Every step echoed like a drumbeat of captivity. The elder sister led the way, tall and silent. Her name, spoken with fear by the soldiers, was Solara. She ruled not only her sister but also this fortress and the people within it. To many she was law itself. Solara stopped in a wide hall filled with banners and glowing symbols. Soldiers lined the walls, standing like statues, their eyes fixed on Daniel. In the center of the hall stood a long table, where robed figures of the alien council waited. Daniel was forced to kneel, though he resisted until soldiers pressed him down. His eyes glared at Solara with fire. One of the counselors spoke, his voice deep and formal. "Human, do you understand where you stand?" Daniel's voice was rough but steady. "I stand as a free man. Not as property, not as anyone's." The counselor's eyes narrowed. "Wrong, you touched the younger. You gave her life. By our ancient law, her bonds are her elders' bonds. Solara claims you, and we recognize her right." The hall fell silent. Daniel felt a wave of disbelief. He had thought maybe, just maybe, someone would challenge this madness. But here the law was iron, and no one dared to bend it. Solara stepped closer, her long shadow falling across Daniel. "From this moment, you are mine. Your hands, your mind, your breath, all mine." Daniel spat on the floor. "You can chain my body, but you'll never own me." Gasps filled the hall. Soldiers tightened their grip on their weapons. No one had ever spoken to Solara like that. But Solara only smiled. Not with kindness, but with the cold amusement of a hunter toying with its prey. "You are bold," she said softly. "I like bold things. They break slower." Her words sent a chill through the hall. The soldiers looked uneasy, yet none dared to move. The younger sister, Lyra, suddenly burst into the hall. Her small figure rushed past the guards before they could stop her. "No," she cried. Her voice cracked with desperation. "He is not yours, Solara. He saved me. He is mine to thank, not yours to own." The council stirred. Whispers filled the air. A younger challenging an elder was almost unheard of. Solara turned, her eyes sharp. "Lyra, you will learn silence. Do not forget, you are mine too." But Lyra's courage burned brighter than her fear. She ran to Daniel's side and grabbed his arm. "If you take him, you will lose me. I will not obey." Daniel looked at her, his chest tight with both pride and worry. This girl, so small, was willing to stand against her own sister for him. He wanted to protect her, but he also knew how dangerous her defiance was. Solara raised a hand. The soldiers moved toward Lyra, but she lifted her chin high. "You may hold him with chains, but you will never hold his spirit. And if you hurt him, I will never forgive you." Solara's cold smile vanished. For the first time, anger flickered in her eyes. "You forget yourself, little one. Without me, you are nothing. Without the law, you are dust." Lyra shook her head, tears shining in her eyes. "Without kindness, law is nothing." The hall fell silent. Even the counselors seemed shaken. Lyra's words carried a truth that cut deeper than any weapon. Daniel's voice broke the silence. "Listen to her. She is braver than any of you. You hide behind chains and rules, but she sees what's right." The counselor slammed his staff. "Enough, the law is clear. Solara's claim stands. The human belongs to her." Guards pulled Lyra away, her cries echoing through the hall. Daniel's heart twisted as he watched her struggle. He wanted to fight, to break the chains, to tear down the fortress with his bare hands. But the soldiers' weapons glowed, and Solara's eyes watched him like a predator. Solara leaned close, her voice low so only he could hear. "Do not think her words will save you. Here I am, the law, and soon you will learn that even the strongest spirit bends." Daniel met her gaze, unbroken. "Then you don't know humans." For a moment their eyes locked, human defiance against alien power. Then Solara turned away. "Take him to the lower chambers," she ordered. "He will begin his service at dawn." The soldiers dragged Daniel out of the hall, chains rattling with every step. Lyra's voice still echoed in his ears. "Without kindness, law is nothing." In the darkness of the fortress chambers, Daniel realized one truth. This fight was no longer about his freedom alone. It was about Lyra, about every voice silenced by this cruel law, and no matter what chains they placed on him, he would not stop. But Solara's claim was not just ownership, it was a test. A dangerous game had begun, and Daniel was caught in the center of it. The chamber was cold and dim, built from black stone that swallowed the light of the torches. Daniel sat against the wall, his wrists bound by glowing chains. The fortress seemed alive, its walls humming with strange energy, as if it too was watching him. He had thought slavery was something of the past, something humans had fought hard to erase on Earth. But here, on this alien world, slavery was wrapped in the cloak of law. They didn't even call it cruelty. They called it order. At dawn, soldiers dragged Daniel from his chamber. They led him through narrow halls until they reached a massive courtyard. It was full of alien workers, some repairing machines, others training in combat drills. But not one of them looked free. Each wore a collar or a band of light marks of ownership. Daniel's chest tightened. This is their world. A world where freedom does not exist. Solara waited in the center of the yard. She stood tall in her silver armor, her cloak trailing behind her. Her eyes never left him. Today, she said, her voice carrying over the courtyard, you will learn your place. She motioned to the guards, who shoved him toward a pile of broken machines. Their parts lay scattered. Rusted engines, snapped wires, shattered cores. You are an engineer, Solara said calmly. You will fix what I tell you. Your mind now belongs to me. If you refuse, she pointed to the guards. Their weapons flared with deadly light. Daniel's jaw tightened. You can force my hands, but you'll never own my will. Solara's lips curved slightly, not in kindness, but in dark amusement. We shall see. He bent down, his hands working despite the chains. The machines were strange alien designs he had never studied, but their language was still one he understood. The language of gears, wires, and power. Slowly, piece by piece, he began to rebuild. Around him, other servants watched in silence. Some looked away, too afraid. Others stared with quiet hope as if his defiance sparked something inside them. One whispered, "A human dares resist." Another muttered, "He will be broken like the rest." Hours passed. Sweat rolled down Daniel's forehead, but his mind stayed sharp. By the time the twin suns dipped low in the sky, he had repaired a damaged power core. The machine hummed back to life, glowing bright. Solara stepped closer, her boots echoing on the stone. Impressive. Your skill will serve me well. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow. I don't serve you. I only serve the work. The soldiers gasped at his words, but Solara only smiled, her eyes sharp like blades. You still believe you have a choice. That is what makes this entertaining. That night, Daniel was returned to his chamber. Yet he was not alone. In the shadows, figures slipped inside. A small group of alien rebels. Their collars broken, their eyes filled with fire. One of them, an older alien with scars across his face, whispered, "We have been watching you, human. You defy her openly. You are not afraid." Daniel looked up, weary but unbroken. Fear is there. But freedom matters more. The scarred alien nodded. Then perhaps you are the one we need. This fortress is full of chains, but chains can break. Will you help us? Daniel hesitated. He thought of Lyra, her small hands pulling at his arm, her voice shouting against her sister, her words, "Without kindness, law is nothing." He nodded slowly. I will help, but I will not fight just for myself. I will fight for her too. The rebels exchanged glances, their faces lit with cautious hope. Then you are one of us, the scarred alien said. Before they could speak further, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hall. The rebels melted back into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they had come. Guards entered, dragging Lyra into the chamber. Her wrists were bruised, her face pale from defiance. She stumbled to Daniel's side. I told you I would come, she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel caught her as she nearly fell. Lyra, you shouldn't be here. It's too dangerous. Tears filled her eyes, but her spirit burned. I don't care. I won't let her keep you. She thinks she owns everything, but she cannot own your heart. She cannot own your kindness. Daniel felt a surge of emotion. This child, small and fragile, was braver than most warriors he had ever known. But then the door opened again and Solara stepped inside. Her cold eyes swept over them both. So, my younger still clings to the human. Lyra stood tall, her voice shaking but firm. He is not yours, Solara. He never will be. For the first time, Solara's calm mask cracked. Anger flashed across her face. If you defy me again, little one, I will make you watch as he is punished. The soldiers gripped their weapons, waiting for her command. Daniel stepped forward, chains rattling, his voice like steel. Touch her, and you'll regret it. Law or no law, I will not stay silent. The air grew heavy, charged with tension. Solara stared at him, her fury battling her control. Finally, she turned sharply and walked out, her cloak whipping behind her. The soldiers followed, leaving the chamber in silence. Daniel looked at Lyra, his heart pounding. He knew one thing now. Solara would never stop until she broke him. But he also knew something else: he would never let her win. In the darkness of the fortress, hope flickered like a fragile flame. And sometimes even a small flame was enough to burn down an empire. The fortress slept under the twin moons, but inside its walls, Daniel could not rest. He sat on the cold floor of his chamber, his hands chained, his mind racing. The weight of Solara's control pressed down on him like stone. Every moment in her fortress was meant to remind him he was property, not a person. Yet in the silence of night, a soft sound reached him, the creak of a hidden door. Daniel's head lifted quickly. A small figure slipped inside, her steps careful, her eyes wide with fear. It was Lyra. She looked tired, her face pale from days of being scolded and locked away. Still, her spirit glowed with the same courage as before. She hurried to Daniel's side, placing her hands on his chains. "Lyra," Daniel whispered, shocked. "You shouldn't be here." "If Solara finds out—" "I know," she interrupted. Her voice was quiet but firm. "But I couldn't stay silent. I came to warn you." Daniel leaned closer, his voice low. "Warn me about what?" Lyra's eyes darted to the door, making sure no guards were near. Then she leaned in, whispering words that chilled him. "Solara doesn't want you only as property. She wants to use you as a weapon." Daniel frowned. "Weapon? How?" Lyra's hands trembled as she explained. "She knows you are different. Stronger than most here. You fix machines faster than her best engineers. She wants to turn you into something she can unleash in war. She wants you to fight for her, not for freedom, but for her power." Daniel's stomach tightened. He thought of the machines he had repaired, the energy cores, the hidden weapons in the fortress halls. Now he understood. Solara was not just keeping him as a servant. She was preparing him for battle, like a blade to be sharpened and used. Lyra's voice shook as she continued. "She said she will tie your life to mine. If you refuse her orders, she will hurt me. If you escape, she will punish me. She wants to make sure you obey." Daniel's fists clenched against the chains. Anger burned inside him. Solara's cruelty had no limit. Not only did she trap him, but now she planned to chain his choices to Lyra's life. He looked at the girl beside him. Her courage was strong, but her small body shook with fear. "You risked everything coming here to tell me this," Daniel said softly. "Why?" Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She pressed her small hand against his. "Because you saved me. And not just my breath, you saved me from being nothing. You are the only one who sees me as more than property. You are family." The word struck Daniel's heart like a blade and a bomb at the same time. Family. A word heavy with love, with loyalty, with bonds chosen, not forced. He swallowed hard. "Lyra, I don't know what will happen. But I promise you I won't let her use me, and I won't let her hurt you." Lyra nodded, her tears shining in the moonlight. "Then we must be careful. There are others in the fortress, slaves, workers, who hate Solara's rule. They whisper of rebellion, but they are too afraid to act. If they see you stand, maybe they will rise too." Daniel remembered the scarred alien rebel who had come to him days before. The hope in his eyes, the whisper of chains breaking. The pieces were starting to come together. But before Daniel could reply, heavy footsteps echoed in the hall. Lyra's eyes widened. "The guards!" She scrambled to her feet. Daniel pulled at his chains. "Go. If they see you here, Solara will—" Lyra shook her head. "No, I won't leave you." The footsteps grew louder. The door began to creak. In desperation, Daniel leaned close. "Lyra, listen to me. You are braver than anyone I've met. But if you're caught, they'll hurt you. Please go." Her eyes filled with pain, but she nodded. Quickly, she slipped into the shadows of the secret passage she had come through, vanishing just as the door burst open. Guards entered, their eyes sweeping the chamber. Daniel sat still, his face calm, though his heart raced. They checked the room, but Lyra was gone. One guard sneered. "Still awake, human? You'll need your strength tomorrow. Solara has plans for you." Daniel did not reply. He lowered his head, letting the chains hide his clenched fists. When the guards left, the chamber fell silent once more. But inside him, silence did not exist. His heart burned with a new fire. Lyra's secret had shown him the truth. Solara would never stop, not until she broke both of them. Daniel whispered into the darkness, a vow only he could hear. She wants to make me her weapon, but I will be a weapon against her. And far away in the fortress, Lyra pressed her back against the wall of the secret passage, her heart racing. She whispered the same vow, her voice small but fierce. I will free him, whatever it takes. The night stretched long, heavy with secrets. Yet within those secrets lay the spark of rebellion, small, fragile, but ready to grow. The fortress woke at dawn with the sound of horns. Soldiers marched in the courtyard, their boots hitting stone like thunder. From the towers, banners of Solara's house waved in the wind, proud and cold. Daniel was pulled from his chamber, his chains glowing in the pale light. Guards pushed him into the yard where machines stood ready, engines repaired, weapons humming with energy. Solara stood before them all, her armor gleaming, her gaze sharp as steel. Today, she declared, her voice echoing across the courtyard, the human will prove his worth. He will power our war machines. His mind and skill will serve my house. The soldiers cheered, but the sound carried no joy. It was the cheer of obedience, not belief. Daniel looked around. Slaves and workers lined the edges of the yard, their collars glowing faintly. Their faces were tired, beaten by years of chains. Yet some eyes followed him with something else, something quiet, something dangerous. Hope. Solara walked toward him, her steps slow, deliberate. She spoke so only he could hear. If you refuse me, Lyra suffers. If you resist, she bleeds. Choose wisely. Daniel clenched his fists. Her cruelty was endless, but he would not let her see fear in his eyes. He bent down, his hands moving across the machine before him. Wires sparked, gears clicked, engines roared to life. Solara's smile grew, thinking his obedience was victory. But Daniel was not repairing only for her. Every twist of his hands, every spark he shaped, carried something hidden. He was leaving marks, signals only rebels would understand. The machines could fight, yes, but they could also turn against their masters. When the work ended, the machines stood ready. Solara lifted her hand proudly. You see, even a human bends to law. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others silent. Daniel caught the eyes of the scarred rebel in the shadows. A small nod passed between them. The plan was ready. That night, the fortress shook with the first cries of rebellion. It began in the lower halls where slaves worked the furnaces. Collars cracked, doors burst open. The rebels moved like fire through dry grass, spreading fast and fierce. They carried stolen weapons, broken tools sharpened into blades, and the fire of freedom in their hearts. Daniel was freed from his chains by the scarred rebel. It is time, the man whispered. You lit the spark. Now we burn the chains. The courtyard erupted in chaos. Rebels clashed with guards, the sound of steel and screams filling the night. Flames spread from broken machines. The sky glowed red as freedom fought against law. Daniel rushed into the fight, grabbing a fallen weapon. His body moved with purpose, not for himself alone, but for Lyra, for every soul chained in this place. He struck down a guard, then another, each step taking him closer to Solara's tower. He found Lyra locked in a high chamber. She cried out when she saw him. Daniel! He smashed the lock with the weapon and pulled her close. We're not staying here. We're leaving together. But Lyra shook her head, fear in her eyes. No, Solara will come. She said if you rise against her, she will end me. As if her words summoned it. Solara appeared at the door, her armor shining in the firelight. Her eyes burning with fury. The battle outside raged, but here the air froze. Solara lifted her blade. You dare defy me, human? You dare turn my own house into fire? Daniel stood firm, pulling Lyra behind him. This law of yours is nothing but chains, and I will break everyone. Solara's voice was sharp as glass. Do you not understand? If I kill you, her life ends too. The law binds you together. Your fight will destroy her. Daniel's heart pounded. The rebels' cries echoed from below, but here the choice weighed heavier than war. To fight meant risking Lyra's life. To surrender meant losing everything he had stood for. Lyra's hand tightened on his arm. Her voice, though small, cut through the storm. Do not stop. If the law says my life ends with yours, then the law must fall. Better to die free than live in chains. Daniel looked into her eyes. Courage burned there, brighter than fear. He felt strength rise in his chest, unshakable, unbreakable. He raised his weapon. Then the law ends tonight. Solara lunged, her blade flashing. Daniel met her strike with fire in his heart, the fortress shaking with the clash of will against law. Below, the rebels shouted louder, their voices carrying through the burning halls. Freedom, Freedom! The rebellion had begun, and there would be no turning back. The fortress burned. Flames climbed the tall walls, turning banners of Solara's house into ash. The clash of rebels and guards filled the night with steel, screams, and smoke. But at the heart of the chaos, another battle raged, a battle of wills. Daniel stood in the high chamber facing Solara. Lyra clung to his arm, her small chest rising with fear but her eyes steady with courage. Solara's blade gleamed, her face twisted with fury. "You dare stand against me," she hissed. "You, a human, an outsider, think you can break what has ruled for centuries?" Daniel's voice rang firm. "I don't just think it. I will." Their blades clashed. Sparks flew, echoing like thunder. Solara's strength was brutal, her strikes heavy and precise, but Daniel's will made him faster. He blocked, he countered, his arms burning with effort. Each strike carried not just strength, but purpose. Lyra cried out as Solara's blade cut across Daniel's shoulder. Blood dripped, but he did not falter. He pressed forward, his weapon striking again and again. "You cannot win," Solara roared, forcing him back. "The law binds you. If you die, she dies. If you fight, she suffers. The law owns you both." Daniel's chest heaved. The chains of her words were heavier than steel. But then he looked at Lyra. She stood tall, her tears mixing with firelight, her voice unshaken. "Break it," she said. "Break the law. Break her." Something inside Daniel snapped, not in weakness but in strength. The law was only as strong as the fear that fed it, and he would not feed it any longer. He lunged, driving Solara back. Blow after blow, he forced her toward the shattered wall of the chamber. The firelight painted his face with resolve. Solara fought back with rage. Her blade slashed, her voice filled with venom. "If you break me, the council will come for you. The galaxy itself will rise against you." Daniel's voice thundered. "Then let them come. Let them see what humans do when faced with chains." With one final strike, he disarmed her. Her blade clattered to the floor, sliding into the flames. Solara stumbled, her eyes wide with disbelief. "No," she whispered. "This cannot be." Daniel stood over her, weapon in hand, but he did not kill her. Instead, he spoke loud enough for all who fought below to hear. "This law is nothing. A law that steals freedom, that chains kindness, that claims lives. It is no law at all. Tonight it ends." His voice carried through the fortress. Rebels and slaves raised their heads, their cries growing louder. Guards faltered, their will shaken. The chains of belief, older than stone, began to crack. Solara fell to her knees, her power broken not by death but by defiance. Lyra rushed to Daniel's side, her small hand gripping his tightly. "You did it," she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. Daniel knelt to her level, his bloodied face softening. "No, Lyra, we did it. You gave me the strength. You showed me the truth." Outside, the fortress roared, not with Solara's command, but with freedom. Collars shattered, rebels raised their voices, and even guards threw down their weapons. The rebellion had turned into victory. But as the first light of dawn broke over the city, shadows darker than night loomed. The smoke parted to reveal ships in the sky, massive, silver, and marked with the crest of the galactic court. The crowd below fell silent. Fear returned like a storm. One of the rebels whispered, trembling, "The court, they've come." Lyra clutched Daniel's arm, her voice small. "What will they do?" Daniel looked up at the ships, his jaw set. "They'll try to restore the old law. They'll try to erase what we've done. But they can't erase the truth." The fortress walls, cracked and burning, stood as witness. The people, once silent, now shouted with one voice, "Freedom! Freedom!" Solara, kneeling in defeat, turned her eyes upward. "You've doomed us all, human. The court will punish this world. They will punish you." Daniel's voice was steady, unshaken. "Then let them come. I've faced worse than chains, and I will face them again." Lyra stepped beside him, small but fearless, her voice joining his. "We will face them together." The twin suns rose, bathing the battlefield in gold. The law that had ruled for centuries lay broken, shattered by a single act of defiance. But as the ships descended, Daniel knew this was not the end. This was only the beginning. And for the first time, the galaxy would learn the truth. Humans do not bow to chains. They break them.